I'm Jill Savage, joined in studio by a very tanned editor-in-chief, Matthew Peterson.
There was a lot of work to do in California, a lot of teaching, a lot of the Marshall Fellowship we just did with all the young lawyers on the right. It was great.
A lot of work, a lot of walking along the beach, yada, yada, yada.
A lot of phone calls taken on the beach. It was very difficult, yes.
And holding down the fort, as always, our DC politics editor, Chris Bedford.
Oh, it's just me and Josephine. Tommy's out for work drinks. It's going to be a good show.
It's going to be a great show because we were talking about Adam Schiff yesterday, Chris, right? That's like the tip of the iceberg right now. These declassified documents keep coming in. The ones we got today were from Just the News, and they were showing that James Comey was leaking classified information to the New York Times to craft the Russia collusion hoax. So let's break this down because it's a lot. We have so many different things to get into, you guys, but when we look at this, it's like everything that we've been saying for years. We get the actual documents to prove there is actual collusion. There's actually classified documents that have been given out to our friends. James Comey is like, all right, we need something else here, Matt. We need to have a narrative set inside the media.
Yeah, I mean, here we see what we always knew was happening, but Comey is not only leaking, he's hiring a special government operator employee to leak for him. So you have someone who's paid by the government, is working for the government, who then is the go-between for Comey to the New York Times and other publications, who then go on to get their awards for all the great work that they did. And so what you get here is an inside view of how this stuff operates, and it's operated this way for a long time.
And Chris, when we look at this, like, what is your initial assessment? Because again, we've thought this for a very long time. Now we get to see here that it's actually, a former FBI director who had a special government employee that he was using to leak the classified information to the New York Times and others.
So you say we thought this, but we actually kind of knew this.
Yeah.
So at first, when I heard this, I kind of rolled my eyes. So I was like, all right. James Comey even admitted in 2017 under testimony that he had a pal who was leaking to the New York Times for him. But this actually changes things when you dig into it a little further on two different levels. One, as Matt mentioned, welcome back, Matt. It's good to see you. This was a government employee, not just a pal, not just a friend, not as if really even using a friend would actually be acceptable. But it was a government employee. That's a problem. And two, this sheds light on exactly what the New York Times was actually doing. I mean, we all knew that this stuff was BS. We knew that this was a liberal accreditation loop. We knew it was an information loop. We knew it seemed like an intelligence operation, but that was all suspicion at that point. That they were leaking to the press and then using the press to justify further investigation. That stuff, but this actually exposes just how much of the New York Times reporting was really just being played like a fiddle by government officials. And right now, I mean, the president's got an actual lawsuit against the Pulitzer Committee over this sort of thing, over defamation of him. And now you see that it was actually being fed from inside the government, not unlike Watergate, actually. And then the third thing. There's actually the white pill in all of this. For all of us folks who've been covering this for 8 or 9 years, people who've been reporting on this, people who are feeling like, all right, rest of the world, you finally caught on. The white pill is that this is coming from federal prosecutors and federal justice officials. It's coming from the FBI now. It's coming from the Department of Justice. It's actually a whole nother level. I mean, this is no longer you, me, and Matt talking about it. It's no longer Maria Bartiromo yelling about it every Sunday morning and every weekday morning. It's no longer the pages of the Federalist and their latest headline, their latest investigative piece. This is authentic journalism, authentic actual government prosecution work. And it really starts to make me realize that they're taking this seriously and that Pam Bondi, so help her God, better actually get some perp walks out of this because this is what's necessary. And this is actually the direction that they're starting to head.
Well, Donald Trump was saying almost as much. Let's go ahead and listen to him from earlier today on the Russia hoax.
I had to go through the Russia hoax And it was a strain on the relationship. I actually told them, I said, they got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it. These people put our country at great danger.
So this is the question, right? Yeah, that Bedford poses. Pam Bondi, Matt, are we going to see something come about? Because we keep saying it now. This is an actual opportunity for her to go through and prove something to the American people right now in a pretty big way.
Yes. And so first off, what Chris is saying is important. These aren't just leaks coming out to us now. These are drops that are, breadcrumbs that are leading to an actual prosecution. That much is clear. But this needs to be handled in, the most careful way, the most clean-cut way, and it needs to be aggressive, and it needs to actually lead to punishment. And just to be clear what we're talking about here, we're talking about the FBI investigating itself to find out where leaks came from of classified information, only to discover that it came from the FBI director, right, who's showing classified information to a special government employee that is his friend, who then is tasked with going out and talking to the New York Times and others about this information. So, they sat on this for years, and now we're looking at it going, do the elites get punished? I mean, this is just one example of many, right, throughout the history of Russiagate, where you find people breaking the law, doing things they're not supposed to do, and getting away with it scot-free. And so the whole point, this is at the heart of the last 10 years of the Trump administration, at the heart of everything. This is more than Epstein. This is more than, any of the other ridiculous things that happened. This is even, at the core beyond January 6th and the aftermath. The original sin of the deep state was going after Trump with this Russia stuff. And if people don't get prosecuted, then we haven't really won.
Yeah, Arctic Haze, if we go through the timeline of this is the media leak investigation that was opened by the FBI back in 2017. And there were 4 articles that they looked at in particular, one with the New York Times, one with the Wall Street Journal, and 2 with the Washington Post. So these are the ones that they're actually looking at that contained the classified information. And Daniel Richman is the guy that is now the special government employee, the friend of James Comey that we keep talking about. And if we look through here, in one of the articles in this, they say the goal here, Richmond spoke with the media without consultation with the FBI or DOJ offices of public affairs. Richmond contacted journalists to correct critical stories of Comey, the FBI, and to shape future press coverage. So, of course, like Bedford, when we look at this, yeah, of course, the media is going to be used to shape the press coverage. But when you look at it, it's adding in all the classified documents. We then get to the part where it's an issue that the FBI actually does need to look into. You're muted. Come back to us.
I just want to back up a moment there.
Yeah.
Because did you say this was bigger than Epstein?
I did.
I heard that.
Russiagate is bigger
you heard it here
than
second.
Epstein. I will say that, yes.
Bigger than the Beatles. Yeah, I think that this is this is big news. It's normal for the FBI or any government agency to try to shape press coverage. That is part of their job. It would be silly for them not to be doing it. The problem you get into is where you start to see the confidential information being leaked. And you see not just Comey here, but you see Schiff. You see other people who are doing this repeatedly. Now you've got the specific articles. You'd read these articles, you'd be able to kind of figure out, you can reverse engineer it. Gone are the days of multiple sources, gone are the days of people on the record, now replaced with the days of people familiar with the subject matter, people familiar with the investigation, people familiar with the thinking, unnamed, unverified. That was the absolute journalistic ethics went out the window. That was the letter of the day for how these news stories were covered. And the main problem, just like Matt was talking about, the original sin is it was all actually false. It wasn't true what was going on. These leaks that they were doing, they're trying to shape the narrative, trying to undermine faith in American democracy using disinformation campaigns. It wasn't coming out of Moscow. It was coming out of Foggy Bottom. It was coming out of downtown Washington, D.C. It was coming out of Langley. It was coming out of these sorts of places. These attempts to actually try to change the legitimate future of our government and the legitimacy of the only elected person in the United States, popularly elected person in the United States. So this is all really good steps, all in the right direction, all revealing more and more of some of what we knew and some of what we didn't know about what exactly was going on in this administration. This reveals a couple of lines in their thinking. Comey thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Most people thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win. I mean, I remember having an argument with a relative at a wedding who said Trump's going to win. And I said, I absolutely would believe you if it wasn't for early voting. I think that things really have shifted towards the real estate tycoon Donald Trump, or reality TV star Donald Trump, but they're not actually there yet. And because of early voting, Hillary Clinton will probably pull this one out in a pinch. And it started to change when Florida was going the other direction, going towards Trump, and the panhandle hadn't even come in. We're thinking, holy smokes, is this happening? Is this actually happening? That must have been going through Comey's mind too, because he had been covering his bases. He knew he had ticked off Hillary Clinton with his extremely bizarre press conference where he said, we're not going to investigate, but she's a bad person. She did bad things, but we're not going to investigate her. And it's inappropriate. She has no ability to defend herself in court. And also, it's not even up to the FBI whether or not the DOJ moves forward with charges. It's not up to him to move forward with charges, but he put himself in that position to try and cover his butt. But he also, everything was moving forward with inevitability, a real feeling of inevitability that don't worry, it doesn't matter. As Barack Obama joked at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the difference between me and Donald Trump is, well, I've been president and he'll never be president. And everyone laughed and things like that. But that was how it was supposed to play out. And all of these documents that are being uncovered right now is because there was a certain confidence and certainty in the federal government that they were going to take out Donald Trump. And then after that, they're going to put him in prison. And short of that, they were going to make sure he could never run for federal office again. Of these things, they were certain. And it's just showing that maybe they actually don't have all the control that they thought they had. Maybe even with their friends in the media who ran President Joe Biden's 2020 campaign while he hid in the basement behind a mask and held rallies with people in their cars blinking their lights instead of applauding to keep socially distanced. Maybe they didn't actually have the ability to completely pull it over in the American people, and we were still independent folks with independent media. Thank God they were able to get to the bottom of this and foil their plans. It's like, we would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling voters.
All that is very true. But I will say the DOJ had the information for 7 years. Trump was president first, right? He was president, then he was not. Now he's back in. So is the deep state, Matt, actually going to be held accountable this time? Are we seeing the significant changes? Are these document dumps that we keep talking about here on the show, is this enough to start really pushing and shaping the agenda to get rid of the deep state?
Well, if they're not going to be held accountable now, they're never going to be held accountable. So this is now the time. The first administration, look, Trump had a lot of people who are not his friends, who are not part of the agenda, who didn't want to implement the mandate, who didn't even understand what it was. This time around, there's been 4 years. There's been a lot of reflection. There's been a lot of work done. And so if there's not punishment now, then there never will be. And the greater picture here is just the rule of law in America. We can't live in a society in which elites get away with things that other people get punished for, or one party gets punished for. You can't have an FBI director who has his own personal, go-between to the press to shape the narrative about himself and leak classified information, however indirectly, and he doesn't get in trouble for it. But damn well, Trump gets in trouble for things that he didn't even do. And you can't have, Hillary Clinton out there, we're not going to prosecute her and no one's going to prosecute me because we can bend the rules because we're the ones in charge. That either ends now or it keeps going. And if it keeps going, MAGA itself will fall apart because people are sick and tired of this. I keep on trying to say this to everyone I know. The base doesn't care about the party either. They don't. They know the Democrats are against them and crazy, but they're not sitting there going rah rah Republicans. They're looking for accountability, any sort of accountability, and any kind of justice, and anything that can bring this runaway administrative state to heel.
The leftists are out there. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
That's just so correct. Donald Trump outperformed Republicans in every single state except for two, where there were popular local senators and maybe a little squishier population, where Republicans won. That's so true. People don't care about the GOP. They care about accountability. And I've said previously, I've been kind of the naysayer on different things. Like, this is not an existential crisis. The media is playing this up. Matt's completely correct here. A failure to actually bring justice here would be an existential crisis for the future of the populace. People who actually really do believe that there should be some level of accountability in our government and that it's essential to the continuation of this experiment that we have in this country.
Yeah, the leftists always go through and they're using the government against the American people and the media. They're using it all together. And as Steve Deace has been saying, prison or it doesn't count.